Transportation, in its most simplistic form, is the process of moving people, animals, or goods from one location to another through the utilization of methods such as vehicles or animals. Bearing this in mind, there are various methods of transportation that we can use within the COD Zombies universe to help us traverse the dangerous terrains our characters find themselves in. Knowing this, I'm going to take you through the world of COD Zombies and pinpoint all of these transportation methods we can use. But before we start, there are some things we must take into consideration when it comes to what we classify as transport. First, any form of transport used within cutscenes will not be counted, as these are technically not accessible during the maps. For example, the boat in the intro to Zetsubo no Shima or the cable carts that take you to the Eisendrache will not count. Second, any vehicle used to exfil a map will also not count unless it physically moves you prior to a cinematic cutscene starting. Therefore, for example, Black Ops 6 exfils do not count as an end scene has already started. And finally, the transportation must physically take you to another section of the map, meaning jump pads and teleports on maps such as Kino de Toten, DE, Revelations and 5 C also do not count. With that in mind, we can move on to our first map, which is none other than Ascension. Straight off the bat, we are transported down into the Russian Cosmodrome on a lander. Now we can classify this as the transport itself, but we can actually go around the map and find 3 separate areas that we can call the landers over to for us to jet off around the map, getting an aerial view of Ascension itself. On top of this, we also use these landers to help us open the Pack-a-Punch in one of the coolest ways possible. A great way to start this video. Now we don't have to go too far on from Ascension to find our next transport, which is none other than Shangri-La. Here, once we turn on the power and open up the map, reaching the waterfall, we are then able to access the minecart, which can be found by Speakola. Using this, we can ride it down to the waterfall, where it will throw us off into the water and return up to the top of the map. This also gives us a good look at the cave system from above, which I can appreciate. Whilst this was a cool new addition, we didn't see another vessel for transport until Black Ops 2, where the first map Transit gave us the famous bus. From the second we enter the map, we find ourselves in a room full of the undead, yet the first thing we really notice is the renowned horn sounding off in the background. Once we exit the station, we are straight away introduced to it. The bus is there waiting for us, and with such a nice bus driver at the helm, why wouldn't we get on board to escape? Now whilst this bus does help us get through the thick fogs of Transit, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, is anything in this map? But anyway, when we are on a bus, we are still not safe, as zombies suddenly become abnormal titans the way they sprint behind you and can actually access the bus on top of this. If you do get off at the stop, don't expect Ted to wait around for you, as he's on a tight schedule and will leave you behind if you're not back on the bus in time. A fun addition, but could be better in my opinion. Anyway, let's call for Ted and see if he'll take us to our next location, which is Mob of the Dead. Now technically there are a couple methods of transportation in this map, but we are going to save one for its counterpart down the line and solely focus on the unique one we have for this map, which we must build ourselves by the way, and of course is the plane. As mentioned, once we have accrued a few parts and taken them up to the roof, we can build our detainees and escape method from this hell-forsaken island, a makeshift plane. Well, that would be if we could fly this thing far enough, as it will only take us to the bridge before we crash down to Pack-a-Punch. On top of this, we can also refuel the plane once we have got back to the island to take us once again back to the Golden Gate Bridge, but never any further than this. It's like we're stuck in some kind of cycle. Flying off to our final map of Black Ops 2 now, and we end up in the trenches of France, and specifically Origins. Now you might think that I'm going to mention the robots, but I'm not going to count them. As yes, you can get inside them, but you are thrown back out in the exact same spot. And I'm sorry, there is no way the robot's doing a full loop of the map in that time. Instead, we're here for the tank. With all this mud around, we need something to help us get through the trenches, whilst also providing us with some flamethrower defences. It can be a helpful mechanism to traverse around, alongside also giving us the opportunity to reach some staff pieces we couldn't get to without the tank. With Black Ops 2 out of the way and done with, our next iteration comes in none other than Black Ops 3 with Shadows of Evil. Being in the middle of Morgue City of course, we're going to need some help getting around. This is where the tram comes into play. Hanging in the Morgue City skyline, the tram can be found within one of the 3 branches of the map, giving you the option of going between these 3 locations, and like Origins is also required to complete a section of the map's Easter egg, being in the symbols required for the sword unlock. Moving from one city to the next, we head over to Stalingrad, and I can imagine you guys know where I'm going with this. But after a few small tasks, we can use the dragons flying around the map to take us on a little flight across to, you guessed it, the Pack-a-Punch route. Now this one is a real unique method of transportation, and is our very first animal transportation method, fitting in perfectly with the chaos that's going on all around us. Going from one wacky map to a whole other wacky game, we move into Infinite Warfare Zombies, where we head to Zombies in Spaceland. Being in an amusement park, I feel it's only fair that we were given the opportunity to ride a roller coaster. And that's exactly what we can do. Because if you go up to the top of the polar peaks and jump onto the ride, from here on, we are out into a minigame where the player must shoot the targets along the ride, whilst also avoiding the zombie clowns. At the end of this, we will be given a certain number of tickets depending on our score, which we can use in the map. And whilst we do end up in the exact same spot we left, I'm still counting it as we are taking on a good ride. Now, Williard Weiler wasn't too impressed with us constantly riding the polar peaks and Zombies in Spaceland, so he's teleported us to our next map, which is none other than Raven and Redwoods. Whilst most are raving away, I'm taking the slowest boat in history to get to Turtle Island, with us needing to travel to the island to talk to the one and only Kevin Smith and the Pack-a-Punch, of course. With the boat being the only method of getting across, we have no choice but to take it. But boy, it does bore me, and in my opinion, decreases the speed of the map's tone. Let's move on to another non-tryout title, with this next one being World War II Zombies. Now this one surprised me a fair bit because there's 2 maps which you can use transport on, maybe 3 depending on technicalities. Our first one is none other than the Darkest Shore, in which once the power has been activated, we can summon a minecart to help us traverse the map. Now whilst we have previously seen a minecart in Shangri-La, this one is slightly different, as unlike its predecessor, the cart can be summoned to the location you are in, meaning there are multiple routes in which you can take, with these routes also being accessible to go both up and down the tracks. Our second transportation might surprise you, but I am going to count the pods you can find in the Shadowed Throne. This is the pod you can see in the intro cutscene to the map, and after pushing through the Easter egg, you can use the pad alongside the assistance of your wonder weapon to shoot yourself up into the Zeppelin to fight the map's boss. On top of this, we can also use the same pod to drop us back down to the original map once the boss has been defeated, something we wouldn't be able to do without it there. Now this is where we start getting into technicalities, because we also have the USS Olympus, where the map is a literal boat. Now I personally wouldn't count it as we're not going anywhere, but what do you guys think? Moving on from that, we are going back to Treyarch, this time with Black Ops 4, and we are facing the same issue that we just discussed with the USS Olympus, this time on a larger scale with Voyage of Despair. This is the same kind of situation as the boat is a literal map. The only difference for me being that we do have a bit of movement at the beginning before it hits the iceberg. Again, I would like to hear your opinions on this, but I'm not going to move on just yet, as we can do a very complicated side Easter egg to get into a flying car. Yes, you heard that right, a flying car. This doesn't really take us around the map, but we are still kind of being transported around, so I'm putting it down as an honorary mention more than anything. Now we've got to pause for a minute here. If you can remember earlier on in the video, I mentioned a certain map's counterpart I would like to discuss, where I said I would like to discuss the extra methods of transportation, and that was in relation to Blood of the Dead. Unlike the original mob, we do not have the privilege of the plane on top of the roof, although there is one similarity they do both have, which was the cable car from the prison to the docks. Giving players a chance to get up or down a lot quicker, this was beneficial for a quick escape, also giving you a chance to calm and conduct yourself mid-fight. Now to conclude on Black Ops 4, we have one final method we need to discuss, and we're going back to our mythical animal roots once again, which personally I am a massive fan of. But in Ancient Evil, we got to see and use Pegasus, the white stallion of light, who assists us in reaching the dark side, and Pack-a-Punch. I sure hope nothing ever happens to this wonderful winged beast. We're now moving out of the Chaos story and onto the Dark Ether storyline, in which we are moving onto Cold War's Outbreak. With this being a large open world multi-map game mode, it was key that players were given different methods to reach their final objectives. To achieve this, we were given a variety of different transportation methods such as bikes, snowmobiles, off-road buggies, which also came with turrets, cars, jeeps, trucks, again with turrets, 3 different versions of boats, which includes a jet ski, and on top of all of that, we also get tanks. I know, actual drivable tanks. That's pretty awesome. But they must have put all their brainpower into Outbreak's transportation methods, as we didn't see anything else in Cold War, unless you count the train in Maude Toten. As if you progress the Easter egg far enough to stop the train, you can stay on it when it starts moving again, but it does only throw you out at the other side of the tracks, so I don't know if I can count that one or not. Having discussed Cold War's Outbreak's massive transportation system, I also think that this is a good time to discuss Modern Warfare 3's Operation Deadbolt. A Warzone map at heart, which was zombified to a small extent, gave us another chance to use a large variety of vehicles to get around the large map. Now I hope you're ready for this, but we got vehicles such as boats, quad bikes, cars, jeeps, armoured vehicles, cargo trucks, and one of my favourite and cool looking vehicles, which was the Bloodburner bike. Unlike all other basic copy and paste Warzone style vehicles, the Bloodburner is an original zombies design. At the beginning of the game, lucky individuals could accidentally come across a single variant of the bike, hidden somewhere around the map. Although later on down the line, we were also given the Bloodburner key schematic, which meant we could summon the bike on request, which I think was a great addition to the mode, giving us a fast, versatile and sturdy vehicle with special abilities on the side. Before we move on, I also think it's important to note that technically we can move around on the Exfil chopper before endgame, and can also jump out mid-air if we change our mind. So I think it's only fair we add a brief mention in there for this one as well. To finish things off, we can move on to our latest installment in the Zombies franchise, which of course at the time of recording this is Black Ops 6 Zombies, and it actually isn't a lot to speak about here. The only time we get to see any method of transportation utilised in the game is on the first map of the game, being Terminus, where we can use the little boats to traverse around the main island and its 3 small counterparts alongside the shipwrecked boat. Just make sure you don't spend too much time in the water, otherwise you will have to face the wrath of Patient 13. Now, I know we don't have Black Ops 7 yet, but as of the trailer reveal, we are also aware that there is going to be some sort of wonder vehicle on the map, which looks to be like a modified Jeep. Now, we don't have many details on this yet, but this will also be within Black Ops 7 Zombies, so I feel like I do need to mention this even though it is not technically out yet. But with the conclusion of that and Black Ops 6, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you have enjoyed this and want to see more uploads in the future, then why not hit the subscribe button to stay up to date. Apart from this, I hope you have all enjoyed, and I shall see you all in the next one.